So, good morning, guys. Update 1.3 has been released to a lot of fanfare, and certainly all of us at the Curb Clippers have been having a lot of fun playing around with it, and it's definitely been a big step forward in the drivability and feel of the game, certainly. Now that the dust has settled a bit, though, it's time for us to look at what effect this has had in the hierarchy of the classes, and whether this has transformed any of the previously more difficult cars, or brought back any of the hairs that existed previously. While we have favoured the overall pace advantage above everything else when we've been doing our rankings, quite often we've found that actually the classes are pretty well balanced, and so in that case we've gone more on what the feel of the car gives us, or how sort of easy it is to extract that performance from the car. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I'm Johnny B. Do quite a lot of racing with these guys, and but nowhere near as much as the person joining me on the call today, Aatu.
Yes, Aatu Liimatainen, I'm here. You know me, I do most of the streams for the Curb Clippers YouTube channel, and I have also my own channels on YouTube and on Twitch too, so I guess you know who's speaking here.
Yes, and so this is a new adventure for the Curb Clippers, doing a bit more of the content creation side of things, and seeing whether we can offer any sort of insight into how to get more speed out of the game.
Yeah, and there's not much things like this about Automobilista too, I think, currently, so I hope we can contribute in a good way. So let's see what we can bring.
Absolutely. So let's start off with the GT3 class, because arguably it is the most popular racing class, certainly in Automobilista, and obviously it has its own game dedicated to it, so seems like a good place to start. Now before the
Yeah,
update, the McLaren was undeniably the quickest car. The Porsche in some instances was about the same in lap time, but the Mercedes and BMW were significantly behind. Since then, it definitely seems like all of the cars have moved a lot closer together in terms of pace. I would say the McLaren is still probably one of my favourites, just because it's still got all of the good straight line speed, and it's still really good in the sort of medium to high speed corners. It is worth noting though that this class hasn't been my favourite since the update. It's definitely, there are a few quirks in there and a bit of surprising stuff that seems to still happen. So yeah, hopefully they're due a little rework soon, but certainly from a BOP perspective they've got a lot closer.
sounds good that they're pretty much on pace, all of the cars, and I must say I have driven GT3 class in this game very little because I have done it a lot on iRacing and of course Assetto Corsa Competizione, which is dedicated for GT3 and GT4 classes, so those put up the bar pretty high, if you know what I mean, and I'm not sure if this game is quite there with the class.
Yes, and I think that's a pretty understandable stance to take at the moment, but yeah, for what we've seen in the other classes, hopefully that gets a revision fairly shortly. So which is your favourite, Atu?
I would say in terms of which is my favorite, it would be either the Mercedes or the BMW M6.
Oh really? So certainly
Yeah,
from my perspective I found that the Mercedes, the default setup certainly is a little bit unpredictable. There's yeah, certainly I found I did a race at Imola where suddenly I found the rear was just breaking loose through sort of just
you know
slightly.
how I like the oversteer.
You do like the oversteer, but yeah, I
Yeah.
found that a few tweaks made the difference, but yeah, certainly it was a bit of a handful.
Out of these four cars, those two are the cars I have driven mostly on the other titles, so
Okay,
that might have some effect to it.
yeah, certainly the M6 is probably, other than the Porsche, I'd say one of my favourites in terms of knowing what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And it's definitely got a lot of straight line speed, so you can really use that to your advantage depending on the track. So like the Monzas, the Bathurst, The
Yeah,
M6 is really strong compared to the others.
yeah. And when I started on iRacing early 2019, I drove this Mercedes a lot, so much, and I got very used to it, how it works. And this is somewhat similar. Of course, it's different physics and stuff, but there's some resemblance, I think, and that makes me like it more.
That's fair enough. And then the car we haven't really touched on is the Porsche in between this.
Yeah,
It's still a very good car, and yeah, I'd say it's, as far as the dynamics go, it is probably my favourite. And it does give you excellent cornering ability, and yeah, I always grin every time I come back to this class to find out how good it is through the high or higher speed corners. It's just, yeah, it doesn't feel like a GT3 car has any right to be that good on the nose. And then certainly you get far more stability through the low speed stuff as well, which is definitely the McLaren's weakest spot, if you ask me.
I have a feeling it might be very strong on some tracks, but I just haven't driven it enough to have like some great opinion about it. But yeah, it might be very good on some tracks, but it loses at Bathurst.
Yes, no, it's definitely not quick in a straight line.
Yeah,
It does almost feel like cheating, let's be honest. So then moving on to the GT4 class, the McLaren 570S was definitely the quicker car before the patch, and it doesn't seem to have changed too much, it has to be said. Yeah, certainly it's still distinctly the fastest. It does have far more straight line speed compared to all the others, than even sort of the faster straight line cars in the rest of the class. And while the I think it's safe to say that the handling's a little bit peculiar in terms of it is very happy to slide. When it's doing those slides, it's just unbeatably quick, basically, isn't it? Certainly compared to the other two cars that I really like in this class, which is the Camaro and the Ginetta G55.
yeah, I pretty much agree on that because I've driven Ginetta the most, and yesterday I tried McLaren, and those are my two favorites on this class.
Did you find that the McLaren was just incredibly quick?
Well, you saw the results I sent you yesterday, and I think top 5 or top 6 were all McLarens.
Yeah, no, you and I have often been Nürburgring specialists in the past, and
Yep.
I had a race where I was trying to chase some McLarens down in the Camaro, and yeah, I just couldn't get close, which for a public lobby for me on the Nürburgring is just not something I'm used to saying.
Yeah, I can imagine that. I think at Nürburgring Ginetta might be also pretty good, but slow straight line speed. You lose.
It's
You
actually
lose it all.
surprisingly not bad. So yeah, I'd say the Ginetta and the Porsche are actually quite good in the straight line, but it's just the Camaro's got a bit of an edge, as you could probably imagine, just because it is such a large car.
Yep.
It does get bitten though by the fact that because it's such a large car, I've found if you're going into sort of a long sweeper corner, while through sort of a fast corner, the Camaro can keep up with the rest of them. As soon as you've got a sort of sustained bit of turning, its weight definitely works against it and sort of drags it down. So yeah, that's
just how it is. Yeah, I'm just checking from the game that it is actually quite heavy, the car.
It feels heavy even if it's not.
Yeah, it's like 1.5 tons in kilos. And for example, the Ginetta is only 1,240 kilos, so it's almost 300 kilos heavier
Just
than
a
the
mere
Ginetta.
family of four to drag around with.
Yeah.
The Porsche Cayman isn't one of my favourites, just because it seems to exhibit many of the McLaren's peculiar handling traits without having the speed and the cornering speed to back it up necessarily.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it certainly as long as you're happy with sliding, it definitely can be used to some effect. Whereas the BMW feels reasonably similar to the Camaro, but just doesn't seem to have any straight line speed from what I've found. So yeah, certainly I'd say that's probably my weakest car in the class for me.
Yeah, I haven't even tried that car, but as I've seen in the lobbies, it's not very popular, so it tells you something.
Certainly does, and yeah, it's difficult in that obviously it's the only car in this that's DLC, and
Oh
yeah,
yeah, it's DLC also.
you slightly expect, or certainly historically, there's been a bit of a pay-to-win theme going on there with the DLC, and you do feel that if that's the case, then yeah, possibly
Yeah.
it should have a bit more of an edge than it does. But
Yeah, it's like, why would you buy a car that's pretty much useless unless you do just single car races, not like full class?
anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for us. So yeah, thanks for
Yep,
joining me, Aatu, and yeah,
no problem.
if you guys like this, then do give us a thumbs up, and yeah, do feel free to follow the channel, and if you like it, then there could be more of this on the way.
I have a strong feeling we have more incoming.
Okay, take care, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.